All right, we are recording.
All right. Well, okay. Xavier is on. That's awesome. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Welcome. We wanted to our whole idea behind getting together today is we wanted to provide you guys with some added value and more information to our database and whole. I know we have actually some of our own network in here as well as clients, but my sister and I had the privilege of meeting Ulises here a few years ago back because we're a little bit younger, and we own a business, and we didn't know how to allocate our funds and what we could do more. And then also the little backstory here is, I recently got contacted by a good friend of mine, client as well. And she was just asking me a few questions about her current financial situation and how she has a daughter the same age as mine and what I'm doing as far as college savings. And I just really thought about it. I'm like, wow, a lot of people have this perception that they may be like, the train already left and they're out of time, or that they need all this money to start putting it away, or to start a retirement fund. And so I thought, okay, she needs to talk to Ulises. She needs to talk to someone that really helped us tremendously put it together. And that's where we came about this. So as we go through, Ulises is going to introduce himself shortly, but we're the Chicago Property Sisters team. My sister and I are the Chicago Property Sisters, along with our amazing team members, Asamina and Jessica, that are here, and they specialize in helping our clients accomplish their real estate goals. But again, this more so is for you guys, depending on what you guys are doing financially. Everyone's situation is different, but Ulises does a great job to appeal to everyone and be able to understand it. Because even me, myself, I do this day in and day out on the real estate side, but a lot of this stuff is new to me as well. And I am blessed to have met this individual who has such a strong background, similar backgrounds, and I'm excited to share his advice here today with you guys. So Ulises, take it away, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro. And it's pretty cool to just hear that story. I think when we were talking yesterday a little bit about this chat, and when people think about like investing and savings, you kind of have like a different mindset as to, I don't know, as a kid, I always thought that you had to have a certain dollar amount, or actually as a kid, we didn't even talk about saving and investing really, right? So kind of give you guys a little context about me. I mean, I was born and raised in the North Side, right there by Madras and Kimball. So back then we didn't call it Albany Park. It's Albany Park now, but it was this place by Betty and Nick. That's how we refer to it as. But my mom was a single mom. My father left us when we were 7 years old, and she would take us door to door selling cable at like 7 o'clock at night, right? So after school, she would go hustle, and we'd hustle with her. And we were on survival mode, right? So we never talked about saving, investing. It was just not part of that experience. And as I grew up and I started to learn more about things and just kind of adulting, I really started to realize that wasn't just it wasn't just my experience. It's a little bit more common, especially in a Latino space, that we're kind of in that first space where a lot of our parents have worked really hard. A lot of them relied on real estate as a stepping stone, but above and beyond that, it's like we've never really had a chat around the stock market, how stocks and bonds work, retirement planning, all that kind of stuff. And to some degree, it's kind of taking a little bit of us saying, hey, that doesn't really apply to me. I'll go down this path, where that's kind of how I really kind of fell into this career and really started to build my clientele, my practice, through really trying to make it a very applicable process for a lot of our folks, including my own family and friends, and really just kind of thinking of it through the lens of my mom and her experience. And a lot of what my mom would tell me early on is, man, if I would have known some of the stuff earlier on, I would have totally, it would have changed my trajectory in life. And that really just stuck with me, and that's a big thing is, when you think about investing, you think about movies like The Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that, which really changes the narrative a lot. But, I think planning is important, but it's never too late. And I think taking baby steps in the right direction is what we really want to talk about today, or one of those things to start making small move in the right direction. And if you do that bit by bit over time, it just starts to really build up into something really beautiful. But it's interesting, you know, like I remember having a buddy of mine in this business, and I was about 22, 23 years old. I was fresh out of college, and I had like $7,000 in debt. And I got that debt because I had a credit card in college. And I got that credit card because I was dating my girlfriend, now my wife, and I just wanted to be able to buy her gifts and take her out to movies, and I didn't have any cash for it. And I remember graduating, and I had my first job, and I'm like, geez, I just wish they gave me a bonus. I could pay off my dad in one chunk. I was too embarrassed to talk to my mom about it. I was too embarrassed to talk to my friends about it. And I just really felt alone. And so my buddy reached out to me about financial planning, and I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to talk about that because I just felt embarrassed about the situation, or I just didn't think it applied to me. And like most Latino guys, and I put myself in that category, I was really kind of reckless with my money. And the little money that I had at the time, it was just like, I wore it, right? So I'd buy my gym shoes, I'd go out to the parties, pop bottles, whatever the case was. And it wasn't until I really had to start becoming independent and I actually got engaged, where I had to learn how to save and plan for my own wedding and that kind of stuff, where really forced me to become a saver. And that's where life started to change a lot differently. But it really became real once we had our first son, Roman, which is now 5 years old. And the stakes are just higher now, right? So, you know, at that point, it's just more like, all right, we just can't mess around right now. And what are our options? And, you know, our chat today is really going to be thinking through that lens. But, you know, I wanted you to kind of just understand that that's kind of the person that understands our world, because we've all had those experiences to some degree. But it'll apply to us in any kind of facet. But so hopefully that provides some context to you all. Is that helpful? Good.
Yes, thank you, Ulises. So before we get started right into your presentation, I'd like just to let everyone know that they're all muted at this time. But if you do have questions during Ulises' presentation, please feel free to share them in the chat box, which depending on if you're using a phone or computer, if you're using a computer, it's right down at the bottom. Phone, I'm not sure, sorry guys. But if the questions relate to what Ulises is presenting on, we're going to jump in and stop Ulises and ask the question. If it's not, then we are going to save it for the end. But so please feel free at any time during the presentation to please post your questions. We want to get them all answered today. There you go.
Yeah, and jump in. I mean, it's going to be a cool dynamic conversation. I think the more you pepper me with questions, the better off. So like I was telling Jamie and Agustina yesterday, grill me, ask me anything that's on your mind. That's the open forum. And, you know, Jamie and Agustina, I really wanted to bring in some content that was relevant to you all to make sure that this is a great use of your time. And kudos to you all for even being here. It's Saturday, we're all home, and you are all interested in figuring out, how do I get an edge in life, right? And how do I get an edge on to handling my finances differently? So hopefully today will provide that foundation for you. But how Jamie had kind of mentioned, everybody's got a different story and a narrative. So everything will be slightly different, but, you know, we'll provide some fundamentals today that we can kind of help you build on. So I'm going to share my screen. And one of the big things people just are asking about is with this pandemic, you know, what should I be doing now, right? Like that's the big thing top of mind is what's the best thing to do at this point in life? So we'll really kind of brush on that today. And kind of, you know, background about what I just kind of mentioned here. That's a big focus I want to kind of talk through. And whenever it kind of goes into space, I love how, you know, we had a little pre-chat yesterday with Jamie and Agustina yesterday, and they were asking, well, would you be given different advice for somebody to do something today than, you know, in this environment versus prior? And the answer really is no. It's just right now we're just a lot more aware and a lot more motivated because we got more time on our hands and just life is more in front of us. But, you know, in these times right now, a very fundamental piece that we should all be exploring, and it's really taking like a mirror and just looking at us. And that's a hard part sometimes, but it's doing a very scary thing, which I was very afraid of doing many times in the past, but it's a very low effort but high impact activity. And that's actually revisiting your budget. So, you know, at this point in time, you know, every time I have a meeting with my clients, and we do it each and every time, it doesn't matter how many times we met, we always go back to, all right, what's going in every month and what's going out every month, because your life is going to keep on changing. You're going to have new expenses, a raise, you're going to have children, just a lot of things are always moving around. So for us, it's really important to, and now more than ever, to just get a better handle as to what's going out and hold on to our money a little bit tighter, is to examine your monthly budget and identify, you know, what can I cut out? And, you know, I think a big misconception people have is when I talk to an advisor, he's going to tell me now, what to spend my money on. And I think that's not the reality of what's a sustainable thing, but it's being aware of where we're at and then starting to have a plan to live in balance, but also taking care of this pot that we got to start building out, that pot being our savings. So we'll explore that in a bit. But the first thing is just to really go through line item by line and say, what am I spending money on right now? And what's coming in, what's going out? And then we build it around knowing, okay, I've got to build in some kind of emergency. Like this,
Oh,
really
we're kind of
losing to the front end of.
Ulises, sorry, we're kind of losing you a little bit. Let's see.
Okay.
I think we're good now. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. No, thanks. So, at this time right now, it's just important to really just go through a fundamental exercise. And if you haven't built it already yet, I encourage you all to do that at some point, even this weekend. And in your downtime, build out a budget and say, what's going in and what's going out every month. And what's interesting is that when you do that, you'll actually see a dollar amount that's probably left over every month. And that dollar amount, literally, we even have it on this board here. So I track every month how much I want to save. So you can kind of see it. I've got my savings tracker for the next 2 years. So I break it out between months. You can't really see it too well. But a lot of times when I just want to hit a certain goal, and when I'll share with the girls, there's about 1.5 years from now, we're going to put down a big down payment for our dream home, if you will. But I've broken out every month as to what I've got to be putting aside just to build it up to be that amount that I want to have, right? But I remember I did that right when I got engaged, and I broke it up by every month, and I would carry it around in my car in my advisor. And every month as I would get paid, every 2 weeks, I just put the amount that I was saving aside. And at times like this, it's just a good time to get back into that habit and to really focus on building up our savings. At times like this too, it's also, really important to have liquidity as much as possible, but also if you have access to our lines of credit, to have those things, full-fledged. So, the girls would know best, right? But being able to reach out to your local mortgage partners and making sure that we have lines of credit, that's important at these points in time now, just given that we don't have any idea as to how long this can go. And we want to create as much leverage as you have as possible. So if you have a home, pull out a line of credit to just literally have it on the sidelines, not necessarily to use it, but to have it on the sidelines in the event of an emergency. If you have an investment account currently, most people aren't aware is that you could actually tap into having a line of credit and that kind of stuff.
Ulises, can I put a pause? Just a quick question, because I know this is something that me and my sister had when we first met with you and we're going through this presentation. How much, when you are revisiting your budget, in terms of just having an emergency fund, cash on hand, what is a good number for someone to have available and to when they want to start saving? What should they be shooting for?
That's a great question. So I always tell people, when you go through your budget, whatever you're spending every month, that total amount number, that times 6, right? So that represents 6 months of our living expenses that we want to have in cash at all times. So can you see this graphic I have up here?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll talk about having a savings game plan in a bit. But the very first thing is, for whatever goal you have in the next 2 years, first off, have that in your rainy day fund, right? So your rainy day fund really is cash, checking, savings. I call that your emergency fund. That should be really composed of 6 months of your living expenses. So that's your rent, that's your car, that's what you spend going out every month on ordering in, going out on date nights, shopping, all that in, pack that number in there. And it's probably between $3,000 to about $7,000 a month is what I see on average people spending. So whatever that number is, 6 months of your living expenses should simply be in cash at all times. One question I would get often from a lot of my buddies is, and it was my buddies because they just were not disciplined. They say, what's the best place to put in money? I'm like, well, what do you want to access it? Like, well, maybe a month or two. I'd say, keep it in cash, right? The big thing is right now, we just want to have a rainy day fund for life. Because, your car's going to get a flat tire. You don't want to take a trip. You're going to have something happens at your house. Have that aside in your rainy day fund. And then the access is.
And by cash, you mean like in your bank account?
Yeah, not literally cash. Yeah, but if you do have, and it's funny though, because, when I was first getting started in the business, I work with a lot of Latinos, and sometimes that was literally cash in under the mattress, right? Or I have a good friend of mine. She literally had cash in plastic bags. And I told her, well, at the very least, get a fireproof lockbox for yourself. But really, in the bank, savings checking account. But once we hit that goal, think of the money as like a bucket, right? So have 6 months reserved in this cup, and then that's it. Big reason why is because now you've graduated. You don't want to have too much cash on hand because it's not doing anything for you. And as weird as it sounds, it actually loses value as time goes on. Life gets a little more expensive. Just as property taxes go up every year, our cost of goods goes up every year. Because of that, your money loses value every year. So that's why you want to have enough money in cash for rainy day. But then the excess should get allocated towards other vehicles that are going to earn you some interest along the way and beat that increase we call inflation. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. Just want to reminder, because we had a couple extra people that joined. If you guys do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll either stop Ulises and have him answer those questions, or we will make sure they get answered at the end.
So a big thing right now during this pandemic is, first off, and the first thing I did is I said, if I don't make any extra money between now and the time this thing goes on, how long of a runway do I have before life starts to go down and firestorm, if you will? So we did a budget. That was the very first thing. And my wife, she's like, hey, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I just want to just make sure I'm just dotting my I's and crossing my T's, right? And we did that. We also got our lines of credit secured, right? So we had our home equity line of credit just on the sidelines. We had lines of credit on our investment accounts just ready. Who knows what? Just want to be ready, because right now, if you're actually asking for banks at this point in time, you're actually going to be in line for a long time waiting, because there's a lot of PPP applicants, payroll protection applicants out there, waiting for their funding. So banks are just really tightened up. Even your clients, I'm sure, are actually getting a little bit of a harder difficulty actually getting lending, because everybody's going to the same bank asking for loans, right? And while they're giving it to us, it just takes a lot longer. But every day is important. And as the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months, it can really be an impact to us. So I want to say, get your lines of credit just ready on the sideline, but also your cash on hand ready. And then make sure, because the big thing is the dust is going to settle here. And what I tell a lot of our clients is, don't default on your bills right now, right? Like, there's not going to be a point where the IRS and government is going to say, hey, you got a break for not paying your bills. So I'm really encouraging all of our clients, keep paying your bills. Don't stop paying your bills, right? Because I don't want to make sure that your credit score isn't affected during this time. And so we're encouraging a lot of our clients, hey, you want to buy that house in the future? Keep yourself in order at this point in time, right? Don't default at this point at all, right? Keep on track on all that stuff. If you're going to cancel some memberships, go for it, but don't let them lapse, right? Things like that, because that'll hurt your credit. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that all of our clients are ready to get their dream houses and to keep moving on in life, as opposed to having that blurb at this point in time. That's another big thing, is just making sure we're just keeping secure and keeping the same course. And on our end, we're also making sure that during these times, protect your family, right? So what I mean by that is, I'm a father of 2 boys. I've got a 5-year-old, I have a 3-year-old, I have my wife, we have a house. So if God forbid anything were to happen to me at this point in time, I just want to make sure that my family is secure. So there's things that you could do that are really affordable for that. So I have life insurance, right? So, having life insurance is a key thing at this point in time. Some firms are increasing premiums. We're not doing that. But the cool thing is just to protect your family. And it's really inexpensive to do that kind of stuff. I remember my very first life insurance policy when we were expecting our first son. I was 29. I'm 35 years old now. But I got $1 million of coverage for like $40 a month, right? So it's really inexpensive to protect my family. But I at least have that peace of mind that, God forbid, I go out for a jog and something happens to me, my family's okay, but and I can keep on progressing. So these are the fundamentals at this point in time that we start saying, just get your housing in order, right? Figure your budget, have your savings, game plan in place, have your access to your lines of credit just on the sidelines, protect your family through appropriate insurances in place, and make sure your credit score, you secure that.
Yeah, and it's just like for me, when we were doing this, it's more like peace of mind also, because it's so uncertain. Everyone's going through their first pandemic. That's the truth. That's the fact, right? And to me, because I had all this in place, and I still keep working with it with Ulises, is I just have a peace of mind. I know that my family's going to be protected. I know my husband, if something were to happen to me right now, I know he's going to be able to carry on my legacy, but also take care of our kids and take care of our family. And you don't have to have kids at all. as well to have that life insurance, but also this foundation that you have grown to whatever that situation is a peace of mind for me for sure. So at minimum, I would highly recommend life insurance term.
I love it. I love it. So that's the very first piece of it. So once we get that foundation in place, I call this kind of defensive stuff, right? Like just getting our ducks in a row. Then we kind of shift to offensive time. So in the real estate world, when prices of homes drop down, do you think that's a point in time where if I'm a buyer, I want to buy my real estate or I want to sell my real estate? I know it's a dumb question, but we'll ask it either way.
Buy.
Right, total time to buy. So that's the same exact concept with the stock market. So we get a lot of questions where people are like, hey, the market's going down. Should I cash out my 401k? The same first thing is, if we're just cashing out just for the sake of cashing out because we're worried about the balance, I'd say no. If we need to take cash out because we're in a bind, then do what you have to do, right? But that's right now, when the market's down, it's actually just like real estate, where that's a great time. And we've been fortunate and blessed that we've been super busy because a lot of our clients or referrals are coming in saying, hey, I've heard it's a good time to buy, but I don't really know what that means. And how do I buy and what am I buying, right? Like, what does that mean? So that's where we'll start talking about staying or even starting the course. So you might hear that a lot through Facebook or memes on Instagram, or just things that you see out there. It's, well, what does it mean to stay the course? So what that specifically means is that if you have any 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, anything that's tied into a stock market thing, you don't want to cash it out right now. Okay, you just want to have that, and it might have gone down. I'll show you what I mean, what that means by going down. Right now, you don't want to take things out at this point in time, but you do want to purchase or start getting in the game. So I'll walk you through an example what that means.
And also, just a little sidebar here, the stock market's very different than the real estate market. So Ulises is going to show you how you could take advantage of the stock market right now, which is a reflection of, establishing those investment accounts, but doesn't correlate with our real estate market right now. Prices haven't came down yet, but we'll be sure to mention if they do and keep you guys in the loop. That real estate market is still very strong, and that's due to inventory. But if you got any questions about the real estate market, we're here as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I think that's the beauty about this economy right now is that in 07, 08, when the market crashed, there were a lot of leading indicators that made the economy look weak, or actually because it was weak. So unemployment was really high. Prior to that, interest rates were really high. I mean, it was really tough to borrow. And then property values were dropping down. This has been the opposite. It's a whole pandemic. It's a virus that really affected things. So that's really shaking things up. But because of that, once the kind of dust settles, we're going to come back to an already established strong economy. And that's the really cool thing. And that's why we're encouraging a lot of our clients, don't get too caught up in these short-term blips, because you want to look at a long-term picture, just like your own clients. It's like, hey, this might last 3-4 months, maybe less, but things are strong already. They've been around strong. And what I mean by that is, so there's this thing, and you start paying attention to things after this chat. One of the things that I just encourage you to pay attention to now is this thing called the Dow Jones, okay? So all that really is, it just kind of keeps score about how the stock market works. Can you guys see my screen okay here? Yep, okay. So every day there's like a big valuation, we'll call it, of what it's kind of worth, and it's about 24,000 points. So I'm going to use real estate as an example, but as a disclaimer, it doesn't represent real estate at all, to Jamie's point, right? So what this means is you see how like the trend was going up. So we're going to take a look just a couple weeks back, February 20th. The Dow Jones, kind of think it was worth 29,000 points. So if I apply it to an example, and I'll use real estate as an example here, let's just say hypothetically you had a house that was worth $290,000, okay? And that was in February. The market started to take a hit because coronavirus news started to come out. So if you had an investment account, you would have seen the value of your portfolio drop down. So your money that was worth this amount of money at one point dropped down in value. So that house that was worth $290,000 was now worth the equivalent of around $180,000, right? So it kind of dropped down in value. Not at all real estate, but just to use that as an example. But what that meant though is that now we're at the kind of the bottom of when the market was at, we're starting to see that values are increasing in the stock market again. So just like when you'd say, hey, property values are down, that's what I want to buy. That's exactly the same narrative with investments. We're starting to see that the trend has started to come up, and a lot of people want to buy shares of stocks and bonds so they kind of ride that wave up, knowing that right now the stock market's still down a total of around 16%. So you're kind of buying something on sale at a 16% discount, knowing it's going to catch back up in the not so distant future.
I want to chime in and ask a question, Ulysses. So when someone is depositing into their 401k every month or every check, they're essentially investing in the stock market. So somebody right now that has a 401k with their company, how much would you recommend, or how much of a portion of their check should they be putting towards their 401k?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at a minimum, a best practice is about 10% of their paycheck should be into a retirement account. So that's a good best practice across the board. At a minimum, if you work for a job that gives you a match, I want to make sure you're at least saving whatever their match is. So my wife, her job gives her a 3% match. So while we're lowering down her contributions, we want to hold more of our money in short-term savings. I still said, she had 5% just put in there. I said, drop it down to 3. That way you're getting. So at the very least, don't stop contributing if your job gives you a match. And a best practice is about 10% of your income should go towards life at retirement, since we don't have pensions like most people, like our grandparents or our parents might have had way back in the day. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going just to repeat that because you're kind of.
One of the things that this means, though. Oh, it broke up.
Yeah, sorry, it was breaking up, but I think I know what you were saying, so I'm just going to kind of repeat it really quickly.
Repeat that again.
Yeah, about 10% savings is essentially what you should be planning for your retirement. During this time, if you want more cash on hand, looking at least to contribute what your company's matching, so you're not losing that, or you're not. You can take advantage still of that free money, essentially.
Perfect. Yeah, you're spot on. The reason why it's important to save into these things, though, is because money earns interest in the long run.
Ulysses, you're really breaking up.
You're
You're really breaking up, Ulysses.
Oh, man. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Maybe it's my big ears that are capturing the waves here. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Sorry, guys. So we're going to go through a quick exercise about how money grows over time. Is that cool? So who here has children? Okay. So we'll use Paloma as an example. I'm going to say, Jamie, Agustina, let's just say hypothetically, you're going to start saving for Paloma's college, or just to have money by the time she's in school. And you're going to start from scratch. But can everybody take out their cell phone calculators? We're going to do a little exercise. And let's just say hypothetically, you're going to save $1,000 a month for 12 months. And now multiply that by 18 years. How much money would you have in your bank account if you save $1,000 a month over the next 18 years?
$216,000.
That's pretty cool, right? But what if we'd say we could make it a lot more than that, because you're going to earn some interest in the market. So that same thing, you're doing the hard part. You're saving it, but let's save it in the right parking lot. So if on average you're putting your accounts into your money in a place that's going to earn us some interest, while you would have deposited $216,000 contributed, but your balance would be worth more than $400,000 because you're earning interest along the way. This green part isn't what you put in. It's what your money is earning, growing in interest. So just like when you see over 30 years how much money you would have given the bank at a 4% interest, all we're doing is having you receive that on your end here. Does that make sense? And you're going to earn higher than that. So the great thing is that, imagine this. I mean, by the time your little one is 18 years old, Imagine putting yourself in that same spot. If your parents had that much money when we were 18, how different life would be. And that's really what we want to help people kind of think about. And it could be over $1,000. It could be over $100. The math still works the same. It's just on different numbers. And our role is to start taking baby steps bit by bit by bit. So as we make more, we start saving more and start to really use this kind of to work in our favor over time.
Yeah, Ulises, can you put maybe can you put an example? Let's say like for somebody to start, maybe $1,000 a month isn't possible to put toward your child's college fund at this time. But if you were just to put something as simple as $150 a month to start,
yeah,
just to.
So let's say you're gonna do $75 a paycheck, $150 a month, and that's also one thing that when I was really wanted to start saving, I really started to break it up into paychecks, right? So for me at the time, saving $200 was an effort. So I had to break it up into paychecks. All right, $100 this first paycheck, $100 the second paycheck, right? So just started kind of building it out that way. And then also bank on my tax returns that I was getting in, a stimulus check at this point in time, or like all those kind of things. But if you put over $150 a paycheck aside, over that period of time, you would have deposited $32,000, but what you're leaving on the table is an extra 32 grand in free money that's just kind of sitting there. And that's the big thing we want to help people do is invest in the most efficient ways possible. So
and this is so we're clear, from clarity purposes, this is for college savings, correct?
It could be for anything.
Okay.
It could be, we could say for any kind of goal. You could say
I was just trying to say the benefits, tax benefits, etc., but I don't know if we're getting into that later.
Yeah, we could definitely get into that in a bit, but I think more than anything, just to kind of save into places that are going to earn us more interest than your typical savings account. You could save into vehicles, and I'll walk you through an example of that, where you'll earn some interest along the way. So kind of think of it just like your mortgage, but now you're receiving that interest. And we're able to do that. The reason why is because you're investing into a pool of stocks and bonds. So one of the things our firm does is that we take away the pressure of having for you to pick what company to pick from. So people these days say, hey, I heard Zoom is a good company to invest into. I heard Tesla is a bad company to get into. I heard oil prices are down. How do I get into all that? Well, we'd say we take the guesswork out of that, where we're going to put together a fund, a pool of investments, where we're going to keep 150 different stock at every point in time sitting in your account. So you'll have a stock related to Microsoft. You'll have stock related to Facebook, Amazon, Abbott Labs. And we're really going to start investing into companies chasing around different industries, such as IT, healthcare, consumer services. And we want to make sure that our stocks in these portfolios are fitting these criteria. And what we can see here is that this account, this fund, has been around way longer than I've been around, but since 1934. And then if we take a look as to how much it's earned our clients in that time, it's actually earned almost 12% in interest. So what's a really cool thing is it's been around for a long time, and it's helped our clients earn money along the way. But every now and then it kind of goes up and down as we're seeing now. But currently it's down a little bit because the market's been up and down. But if on average you have your money, $1, $1,000, whatever the number is, earning interest, that interest makes babies on it year over year over year. We can call that compounding interest. $1 earned interest today, tomorrow we're earning interest on top of interest. And that's what we want to help promote for all of our clients and everybody we work with, is to take baby steps bit by bit. But the cool thing is that you get to be an investor, right? And that's a really cool thing that I think when I first got into the world, I really didn't know how to go about this. And I really thought I needed to have money to invest. And there's some firms that make a minimum requirement. And that's what I love about Northwestern Mutual, is that we really work well with people to really build them up from ground up. And I really love to have somebody layer on a brick by brick, dollar for dollar, whatever capacity you're really comfortable at saving within a concept plan, and start saying, let's just take baby steps to kind of get you there. So we may start off at, $50 a month or $100 a month and kind of work your way up there to those thousands, 2,000, 3,000, et cetera, et cetera. But the big thing is that you can get all that on your own. But what it really makes a big difference is that imagine yourself, and I'll even use my example, 35 years old now. And if I save in this environment, and maybe I just put away, I don't know, $150 a paycheck, so $300 a month, on accident, but because of time, I'll put myself in a spot, even by saving this amount of money, where at least I have 360 grand in the bank. And of that, I would have put in 100,000 of that. But the real big thing is every 10 years our money earns interest at 7%, your money doubles. So the cool thing is the the good thing is I have 3 more windows of that. If I would have started this on when I was 25, it would have been even more, right? So that's the big thing, is start saving whatever capacity you have now, because it's only going to help you out in the long run. What you can see here is that this green part is interest, and interest just needs time, right? So that's the big thing. But I always tell people, take baby steps to whatever your capacity to save is. And then over the years, that's my role, is to help add in more weights to your savings capacity to keep helping you grow in the right direction. One thing though, people have questions on though is, can I access this money? And what penalties come along that way? So I'll walk you through that. So when we were talking before, we were saying have money for a rainy day fund, 6 months of your living expenses. Once you kind of have that secured, then you kind of graduate and we start saying, let's take it in the access and explore maybe saving money into that investment account. But now this money in this account has a different purpose. So a lot of times I try to encourage a lot of my clients to put money into here for any kind of bigger goal they may have. One goal that relates to this group is buying real estate. And I would say putting money into an investment account to buy your next investment is a great strategy to do. So on the contrary, a lot of my clients, I'm always saying get real estate, buy real estate. But the big thing is use your investment dollars to buy the next property. Don't take money out of your savings, but let your investment account be that. Use your money and your savings for your emergencies, your vacations, gifts, that kind of stuff. But things are going to build up your net worth. Things are going to build up your name, or your assets are going to come from your investment accounts. And that's a great place to park money into. And I use the term park very intentional, because you're literally going to deposit money into your investment accounts, but you can take it out without penalties along the way. A good rule of thumb, though, is that only consider saving money in this environment if you're comfortable not touching it for at minimum 6 months. But ideally, you want to kind of let it kind of bake in the oven for about 2 years or so. There won't be penalties for doing that, but it just kind of works better the longer you kind of let it bake in the oven a bit. So I'd say have enough money on the sidelines for your emergency funds for rainy day in your checking/savings. And then anything you're comfortable with, start getting in the habit of saving into this environment here. And when you take money out of your mutual funds, it'll generally be for the purpose of buying a business, buying real estate, buying something, or investing into something that's going to grow yourself as well. Is that helpful? And then on the long end, making sure that if your job or if your spouse has a 401k plan, they have Roth IRAs, you're also saving into that, because those are great vehicles that are dedicated for retirement, that we want to kind of just build up along the way slowly and passively. But real estate is a big component towards a good financial plan. You have some life insurance, and we won't get too much into the specifics today, but term insurance is a really great way to protect your family really inexpensively. But there's some life insurance policies where you could deposit extra money in, and you could pull that money out and use it more of a savings vehicle, another asset for yourself. So there's a lot of kind of different ways you could kind of save money. And our role is to help our clients, depending on their situation, create a custom plan as to what makes best sense in their lives.
So,
any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, or more so the things that we've talked about to like more clarity purposes. So to jumpstart this is basically we're going to create our budget, and we're going to make sure that in this short term, first bucket, I should say, is that we have at least 6 months of savings to protecting our 4 walls, right? Like our home, making sure we have a house or a place to live, family, etc. So that's here in 6 months. Anything excess that we have is to park it in the midterm 2+ years in here. And that's how we start it. Obviously, if we have more than what you would suggest, then we park it 3 and 4 buckets. Is that kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the cool thing is that you may want to save into these things at the same time. So let's just say hypothetically, you can save $500 a month. So every paycheck you have $250 left over, as an example. We might say, you know what, maybe $400 of those $500 should keep going into your savings account. But that extra $100, deposit into here. And then once you check the box here, then you start moving over that $500 here, right? But bit by bit, what I tell people is you can build that stuff up simultaneously. First things first, we want to make sure we pay off our credit card debt, all that kind of stuff, so that we have as much cash on hand to save. But you can still kind of get a jump start to this, maybe not at the speed you want to, but money needs time. So as much as early on you can start investing into there, I take baby steps into it, right? But have this in order. The majority of dollars should be going into here, but don't discount that. And if you have children, we could even talk about what are college savings accounts that are more specific to that. But the big thing is that you could save into both simultaneously, but the speed at which you save into each vehicle will fluctuate and be different based on your situation. And that's where we really try to come into place and help you give that feedback into what's a good sweet spot for you and your situation. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? So I'm going to pull it back to the initial deck here. So that's the thing, is right now, it's a great time to start saving into the market because we've got a lot of appreciation. So that means you're going to earn more interest in the long run. So right now, on average, you might have made 7%, but you're actually getting a bigger discount on things. So you could actually make more money in the market today because the stock market is down currently. So a lot of our phone calls are, hey, should I get involved? It's a great time to do that if we have leftover cash. So right now, the markets have dropped. So it's a great time to enter in there, just like you want to buy real estate when prices go down. Markets go up and down all the time. That's why you want to have some safe money and cash in the bank for rainy day. But it's a great time to start your own kind of family investment account. So we work with a lot of clients that say, I have some savings set aside. I want to have an investment account for my family. I don't know what it might be for. I just want to build my money in more efficiently that way. So we can have like a joint investment portfolio in that same space. Totally a great example. Or it's a great place to kind of jumpstart these kids' college savings. So one thing I'll kind of piggyback on is that when you save into an investment account, you can access that at any point in time. Except the gains, the interest you make, you eventually pay taxes on that cash little by little every year, just like you pay money taxes on a savings account. Except for one bucket, and that's college savings, where you are incentivized as a parent to save money in and never pay taxes on the interest you make on there. So there's specific vehicles, and every state has their own vehicle, but you can actually, I'm just literally going through Google so you can kind of see it. How do I get into there? But every state has a specific plan. Illinois has these things called Bright Start Direction accounts. But you can open up an investment account for your child, for your little daughter, your little son, and get ahead of college for them, where the money earns tax-free interest. We open it up based on their age. And right now it'll start more aggressive. And then as you get closer to school enrollment, they become more conservative. But it's a great vehicle to save into for college if that's one of your goals. So every family is different, and my role is always to say, what's the big priority to you? And let's kind of take baby steps in the right direction where we start to slice and dice our dollar a bit differently. So now if we have $1 left over every month, we might split that dollar into your savings, your joint family investments, and then your kids' college savings. And we want to make sure we're just kind of exploring those options for you.
Ulises, I have a question. So why have a separate fund for your college funds? Like if you're already saving as a family in your mutual fund and your investment account, why would you have to open up another college savings account?
That's a great question. So there's for two big reasons. Number one is that whenever you save into an investment account, you get to access that money. But the reason why you can access it is because you're using post-paycheck dollars to deposit and buy money. So the IRS says you're going to have to pay taxes on the money you make, the interest. So anything you make is subject to taxes at a smaller rates, but you still have to pay income taxes on it, except for college. So the IRS says, we're going to give you a break if you kind of get ahead for your kid's school. So we'll waive the taxable income you have to pay taxes on if you get ahead of school. So if we want to do some tax planning, then I'd say, let's do that. Plus you also get a tax credit when you do your income taxes by kind of getting ahead of the pace. So that'd be the big reason why is we want to really map out and get on track for kids' college savings. It's a lot better for us to keep track as to, are we contributing the right amount every month towards that goal? And also we're also making some good tax planning for you.
So if you are depositing into your college savings over the year, and let's say for instance your taxable income is $60,000, and so that's what you're getting taxed on, but you're putting $5,000 into your college fund that year for your child, you're only going to get taxed on $55,000 for that year, correct?
That's a good, yeah. It won't be that dollar for dollar exact number, but you get a tax credit, so that does help to some degree. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's a healthy tax.
Sorry.
No,
I have a question or like scenario of, okay, so if we, like, let's say the stimulus check for an example, let's say we have our four walls, we have our savings, like that first bucket, and our stimulus check or something that we moved where we came about like our funds, not a significant amount of funds, but a good amount of funds. Where should we allocate? Like, let's say we have some credit card debt. Let's say we have certain other things. What should we do with that money? What should we do with our stimulus check? What should we do with any other excess funds? Again, can you just I like for clarity purpose to figure that out, because myself, I sometimes okay, this credit card doesn't have as much interest on it. Do I take the funds and put it here, or do I park it somewhere else? So could you just share some light on that?
So let's just say hypothetically, you get an influx of cash. You sell a piece of property, you get a bigger commission this month, you get a stimulus check. But so let's just say you get a stimulus check of $1,500, you get an extra commission of $6,000, so you got $7,500. And now you're like, what do I do with this $7,500? But you owe $3,000 on your credit card. Your credit card though is about 18% in interest. Okay, I would say pay off that credit card in full, right? So you got $7,500. Pay off that $3,000. Now you got $4,500 left. Okay. Of that $4,500, maybe your savings account isn't quite yet to 6 months of our living expenses. So let's put in some of that $4,500, whatever that gap is, to get us that 6 months of living expenses into there. But let's just say hypothetically we have $1,000 left over, then we park that into your investment account. Now though, the cool thing is you would have your savings at your goal. So any extra money you have moving forward no longer goes into your savings, but it goes into your investment account, right? And now you're saving into an account that's earning more interest than your savings. Your debt's paid off, and now we're starting to build this out, and you're getting a lot more proactive on buying the next real estate purchase if that's one of your goals, right? So that's the big reason why I love to kind of do our one-on-one conversations, to really understand what do you envision coming in, what do we got to kind of pay off, and really help you balance it out, because there's always kind of a prescript to it. But one thing I always find it's kind of a big rhythm I always hear is people always say, I'll do it next paycheck, or I'll do it next deal, I'll do it next commission, the next real estate I'll sell, I'll start saving that differently. And that's where I want to help us kind of get off that rhythm and not really waiting for the next one, but really starting now bit by bit, right? So that's the big thing is I got a couple clients where I'll say, once you sell that property, call me up and we're going to take that before we start spending it. That's what happens. If we don't have that money kind of predetermined to how we're going to use it, it'll kind of get lost in the minutia of life, right? And life happens a lot, right? But if we're not intentional with savings, then we're never going to be intentional about our growth. And that's one of the biggest things that I want to really try to help create clarity on, and start saying, let's become intentional about what's coming in and where we park it into. Because bit by bit, things build up over time. And if you kind of fast forward the lens and you see, wow, by the time my little one is 18 years old, I want to have this much in there, we can really make that a reality, right? And those are the things that are really trying to help people with become intentional what we're doing at whatever levels they're at, but helping find that starting place for you.
I'd like just touch on that. I remember when we first met, it's already been, like my sister said, a couple of years, and I won't lie, it took a couple meetings so this is a lot, guys, and I understand that probably you're trying to take all this information in. And I just remember the first time we sat down with Ulises, it being a lot, and we were just me and my sister and Ulises meeting at a restaurant, and we were very interested in it, but we still didn't understand all of it. So he was very patient with us and took us about 2 or 3 meetings. So we finally, okay, we're going to start saving. And it's really great to have someone like Ulises as a great partner, not only for me and my sister in our business, but for me and my husband, her and her husband, as part of like our quote unquote family, to be that kind of accountability partner that we kind of all need in life, especially when it comes to savings. Even if you don't get started right away, but I'll receive an email from him or a call and be like, hey, we need to set up that year-end review, or we need to start talking about this. Really great. So I do want to say that if this is something that you're interested in, do not feel like you need to take in all this information right now and learn all of it, that Ulises is available for that one-on-one meeting and speak to you individually at where you're at in your life. Just like at Chicago Property Sisters, if real estate is something you want to invest with, we can also meet one-on-one and discuss your goals. But Ulises, where I wanted to go with that is my biggest question to you was when we first met was, how much should I even be saving for retirement? I have my husband, right? He has his 401k. Me as a self-employed person who owns a business, never had a 401k. So how do you determine, or how do you help someone determine how much they should be saving for retirement?
Yeah, that's a good loaded question right there, right? Well, and everybody's got a different approach to it. How I go about tackling that question though is we'll solve the math problem doing it backwards. Meaning, let's just say you want to live off of $4,000 a month in retirement, right? And how I model it out, and I'll bring up a little Excel spreadsheet here to some degree. Give me 1 second. I'll say if your goal is 4,000 a month, well, maybe we'll say that your Social Security is going to give you $1,500 in retirement, and then you're going to have that rental property because I'm a big fan that rental income is strong. It's going to give us $2,500. Well, now the gap that our team has to really create is a difference between what you have coming in and that, right? So now all we need to do is, oopsie daisy, come up with this difference when its net space is going to be $3,000 at that. Actually, that's not right. It's going to be bad public math right now, but let's do it this way. Actually, you have your $4,000 right there, actually. So let's just say your real estate's going to cost you.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So we just have to make $500 over time. I would say, well, if we had to create $500 over time, we'll create a calculation backwards to say, how can we create a pool enough, big enough where you can take out $500 month over month for the rest of your life? And in that situation, you could probably bill out about $250,000 and cover that over time. So that's how we kind of approach it, though, is we take a bigger picture look and say, all right, what is your first goal? Because everybody has a different lifestyle they want to accomplish. And we'll factor in Social Security, real estate income, or any other miscellaneous thing. Maybe your spouse has something. And then we cover the gap. And that's what we kind of work towards. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what other questions does the greater group have? I mean, right now, as you're kind of going through different nuances in life, what are things that have been back in mind or kind of nagging at you?
I know one of
when
my
you think
questions
about-
I had for you in terms of, can you start saving into a college fund for a kid you don't have yet?
Yeah. I got some coworkers that have done that over the years, and I never really understood why they did that. But it's crazy because once their children were finally born, and it might have been 3-4 years of them saving into these things, they kind of got a head start on that. So you could definitely do that. Whenever you open up a kid college account, you as the adult are the owner, and you assign what are called a beneficiary to that unborn child. And once they're born, you could assign it to them, but you could open it up well ahead of the time and kind of get a jump start on that. So if I would have done things differently, I think that would have been the first thing I would have probably done earlier, is actually started saving a little more for my kids' college. But what's cool is that, they have a lot more money than I had when I was a kid, at this point in time. And that's just because little by little, I would just do $100 here, $100 there. And as they get their birthday monies or their baptism, we just started sprinkling into their investment accounts. But those are the kind of things that I try to help people start saying is, hey, you got money coming from here, you got money coming in from there. Let's use that and park it into these different avenues, right? As opposed to kind of deferring things as time goes on. But always using this example as a guide, right? Do we have enough in our emergency fund? Check. Now what do we start to sprinkle in? And that's where we really start coming in place.
Another question is, so what happens if I save for the next 18 years for Paloma and she decides that she doesn't want to go to college?
Yeah.
Do I lose all that savings?
No. Let's just say Paloma gets a little sister, you can pass that along her way. Or you could pass it along to a blood relative. You'll be able to do that. But worst thing scenario, if that's not the case, then you still have access to your principal, but the money, the interest you would have made, you had to pay taxes on that. So it's always still going to be yours. It just gets taxed now at that point in time. So I'd say
college, it's tax-free money on the gains that the money's made over the years. If she decides not to, and I pull my money out, I would just at that point pay taxes on whatever money I made from investing into it. So
yeah. And that's why I'd rather encourage people in the beginning to just save into their own investment account first. And then once we have a better idea as to a luxury of college savings, and I use my mom as an example. My mom, she had me when she was young. So when I had my son, she's like, Uli, I want to save for Roman his college. I said, Mom, I appreciate that, but I want you to save money for yourself, because if anything happens, I don't want to be caught in what we call a sandwich generation, where I'm taking care of myself, my kids, and now you. So, and that's just kind of what I see a lot of parents doing. So the big thing is college is a great thing to do, but I don't necessarily lead with that with my clients, because I want to make sure as unselfish as it sounds, I want to make sure you're taken care of first, right? Because we can never borrow our way for retirement, and we have to rely on our own backs. So, college is a great thing to do. It's ultimately a luxury that we're saving for. But the first and foremost thing I want to make sure we're doing is we're making you bulletproof, right? And that's the big concept is let's make sure that you're secure in your life. And then if we have excess money, then we can kind of plan for luxury things such as college.
And
the first thing is you.
Yuli, also this fund can also be used for high school, correct? Like if we decided to put our kids in Catholics, like or a school that, okay.
Yeah, there's been some, about 2 years ago, there were recent changes where you didn't have to just use cash for college savings accounts for college, but you can use it for private high schools.
Because that's where like I'm a strong believer as far as college as may not be right for everyone, depending on what your child's end goal is. Like, what if they decide they don't want to go to college for X amount of reasons? Like, that's just more debt that they may get in that's unnecessary. This is a different world now. But what I would say is that, like, I'm not sure if I'm sending my kids to Catholic school or not, just depending on where we're going to be living, or a school that requires tuition, I should say. So my plan is in the next year or so is to be a little bit more aggressive in that account, so I can prepare. If I do send my girls to high school, I need to be ready by 13 years old, 14 years old, compared to 18 or 19. So I just want to make sure that that is an outlet as well that you could be using towards high school. I know we have a couple friends that are sending their kids to a boarding school. So that's things that we need to save up for as well.
Yeah, and I think the big thing I try to encourage a lot of our clients to do is just get in a rhythm of saving money, right? We don't know, in the next, 18 years what we're going to need it for. It may be for our kids' school, maybe for what we need it. But how cool would it be knowing we have an extra cushion that we've created for ourselves if it's been intentional? We can use it for college, we can use it for that next real estate purchase. But the big thing is saving money is better than not doing it at all, right? And if we could park it into a place where you're not leaving money on the table, that's what I want to help our clients do, right? Is over time we can kind of get specific onto a particular goal. But the first thing is I just want us to think abundantly. And I want us to all have as much money as possible, because I think as Latinos, we kind of say that's not really been for us. Maybe that's kind of the air quote, the white way of doing things, right? And that's what I want to take the mystery out of, is saying, let's just save and kind of trust the process to some degree. And even like when people bought their first homes, right? Like how scary of a process it was. And then it's like the new norm. And that's just how investing is once you start taking that blind faith, that leap, but over time, it just kind of starts to click and work. It's like, wow, I'm so glad I did this. And I just wish I would have started earlier on. But as time goes on, you just get stronger and stronger when you start saying, hey, I could save more than $150 a paycheck and $300 a month. I could save $200 paycheck, and now it's $400 a month. And now what we really start to see is a change in your trajectory where things just start to happen and change. But the big thing is giving you more security, so that when you look back, and money isn't everything, right? But I think what money does is it allows you to live at peace and enjoy the moment that you're in life. I know for one that when I would get stressed out, it's because I was procrastinating things that are really important to me. And I think stress comes from when you do procrastinate those important things. And that's where if we can take a step bit by bit every day, every month, every pay period to save a little bit more towards future you're going to kind of move into that space on accident, but say, wow, I'm so glad I had this. And that's a really cool thing that I've experienced a lot of our clients, is that they've kind of trusted the process. Even you girls, to some degree, say, man, I'm glad we kind of got started with that, because I didn't really understand how it worked, but we're kind of walking into a space where we have more money than we would have had we not done it. And I tell people, leverage an advisor to help you kind of prep for that phase of life, right? Because at the end of the day, I want to help you just have as much money available as possible. That's the big thing. And it's just like, I say Jordan and LeBron James, they were great in their sports, right? Jordan fans here, right? But, they had a team of personal trainers, not because the personal trainers were better than them in that sport, but because they just had them take their game to the next level. And by making some small tweaks, you all are here because you're doing some good things in life. my role is to say, here's a small blind spot, but if you make that tweak and save a little bit differently, this is what you can kind of create for yourself, and that makes a big difference over time. So that's a big thing of not discounting these conversations, and over time just kind of getting the rhythm of doing it, because you'll be surprised of the progress you make on your own.
Great stuff. And we're just approaching the 1 hour mark. So if anyone had any questions on their mind, please write in the chat box. Sister, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to continue with Ulises' point. I think growing up, like for someone, we were lucky enough, me and my sister, where, my dad believed heavily in investing in real estate. So, he was always talking about it, always, and we're, not everyone was lucky enough to hear that growing up. Some parents didn't even believe in buying real estate. But then when we met with Ulises, it opened up our eyes to something that our dad didn't even do or think about. And that was, diversifying your investment. And that was, there's a way we can actually be saving to buy our first property. And at the same time that we're saving, our money could be making money. That definitely opened our eyes. So there's a lot of different just ways to, like I said, don't leave the money on the table. It could be working for you, and just, there's different options out there. So meeting with you really helped open our eyes to that.
And it's a big thing I tell people. It's funny because I'll get people that really come in hot and like, well, what could you do better for me? And I say, I think the big thing is I just want to make sure that you're not saving. First things first, right? And let's build in some really good habits. I know for myself, I just needed to really get in the habit of saving, right? And being more conscious of what's going in and out every month. And then start having a game plan as to where to park it. But the very first step was the fundamentals. Let's go through a budget. What's excess? What can I save for short term? What can I put long term? In that long term, let it earn some interest and let the magic happen there. That's when the magic really does happen. But the fundamentals are the scary part, which was looking in the mirror for myself and saying, all right, I had this $7,000 in credit card debt because I really wanted to impress this girl in college. And while that all happened, it took me a long time to pay off those Christmas gifts I got her. But once that happened,
that was a good investment, though. Like it was like a $7,000 investment, so it wasn't too bad.
But, I remember it was like movie tickets, Burger King, and everything. I put in credit card, right? But you know what? I would never take that experience ever again because I made those mistakes. But it always took me to say I can't ever go back in that space, and that's always helped me stay kind of the course now. Where sometimes I don't want to save, but I kind of stay that course because I don't want to go back to that old version of myself, right? But I love that I had the experience, and I don't take it back because it was just a good lesson learned. And now I'll incorporate that to my kids as I teach them, like, hey guys, I made this mistake, and that's okay. It's part of life. But you can kind of get out of these holes, and it's never as good as bad as it seems. And that's the big thing is when we talk to people, I think it's being very empathetic about your situation and just knowing, let's just find a good healthy start in place and create some optimism for you. And as time goes on, you're gonna get stronger and stronger. And that's what I love to see. I mean, I love to see when my clients win. I mean, I love seeing you girls what you're doing, but also like your team winning. I mean, I've seen the name Asamina all the time, and then there's another that's just on there. She's always got her video, her virtual tours. I mean, these girls are crushing it, and that's pretty cool to see because it's just infective energy, right? And you surround yourself around people you want to be around, and the average of who you surround yourself is who you're going to become. But it's great that you're all here on a Saturday, kind of investing in yourself. And even if this stuff didn't really resonate as much, just know that take baby steps in the right direction and almost trust the process blindly. And I promise you'll be better off 5, 10, 15 years from now than you ever would have been. And that's the reality of it. But it's cool to see this infectious energy just coming out of your guys' office. And it's, I remember when you guys had your Logan Square, smaller space, you had that beautiful space down in Fullerton, and you girls are just getting started, and now you got your little kids that are growing up, and how cool of an example they're seeing of these entrepreneurs that are just crushing life and just sky's the limit.
I appreciate that.
And doesn't feel like that every day, you'll see. So thanks for that.
Well, we appreciate that, but we also want to see other people win. This big thing on our team is building leaders and anyone we come across. So if at minimum, I hope everyone today takes a little piece back and really helps them in some way, somehow be better and do better. I know we're going through these uncertain times, and it just shows a lot. Everyone that came on today, like where our mindset is, and it's really inspiring to all. So Again, guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you have any questions that you think about after this, talk to your significant other or what have you, feel free to email us directly. Feel free to email Ulises directly. We'd be happy to start that conversation with you guys. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Ulises. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have
Bye.
you gonna get it ready?
Oh, one last question in here. Oh,
Oh,
Jess,
nice.
thank you. All right.
Did anyone have any questions? Feel free. Nope. Jumping off.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So I do have a student loan, and I was wondering, right now, you know, it is in forbearance and hitting on don't stop paying your bills right now. Do you think, with it being in forbearance and I have until September to pay it off, do you think I should hold off on paying it off and then, you know, put that money towards maybe my car payment or start paying off that school loan?
You know, I would say that you want to look at that student loan, and the good thing is right now, anything you make extra into payment right now is going to go straight to principal, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great time that if you don't necessarily have to put that into savings, and if you don't necessarily have a goal of buying real estate right now, then it's going to make the biggest dent into that student loan. So, you know, use this small window as a window to really tap into that principal. If it's not earmarked for your own personal savings, because right now cash is king and liquidity is needed. So if you're okay there, then I'd say definitely tackle that principal, because right now you get that small little window for 2 or 3 months of forbearance will help you kind of nail that down a lot faster. Also, there's websites that are called SoFi, S-O-F-I, and that's where you can actually go in and also look to see about refinancing any student loan debt as well. So, you know, one of the cool things right now is that interest rates are low. So, you know, look to see if you can refinance so that once it comes out of forbearance, you actually have a lower interest rate. And then using a small window of saying, I'm gonna narrow down this principal a bit more aggressively at this point in time, if we don't have to necessarily save to our savings.
Okay, yeah, thank
Oh, that's
you.
a really good idea. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Right now would be a time, like if you did have the opportunity, I know to like refinance like your car.
All that stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's the best time to do that because interest rates are low. It might take a little longer, but if you can, I mean, refinancing cars, refinancing your credit cards, refinancing loans, lines of credit, all that stuff, right? Because interest rates have dropped into some degree. So at the very least, examine those interest rates and see if you can get them lowered down. And then if anything's in forbearance or on pause, then those are things you might want to pay into right now. So you kind of narrow down those principles a little more aggressively. And with things like a stimulus check, you know, you could use those if you feel comfortable with your savings, right? So right now it's all about though having liquidity, right? Because we don't know how long it's going to go. And if you're a realtor, you work on commissions, you know, making sure that you just have that cash on the sidelines to have your nest egg in place. So, you know, be conscious of that so that still holds support. But revisit all your student loans, all your debts, and lower down the interest rates.
Actually, I have something for you guys. I also work for a different company on the side. I'm trying to build my business through them. It's an investment that I've been doing for now going on a year. So it's actually kind of an opportunity for Latinos right now. It's called Juice Plus. I don't know if anybody heard of it. It's basically fruits and vegetables in capsules. It's over 30 fruits and vegetables in capsules. Because seeing that we are a fast-paced lifestyle, you know, fast food, all that. But we're trying to actually corner the market in Mexico. Well, as a Latino, we have pork and carnitas and all that good stuff that we have is not actually good for us. So we are actually trying to build a partnership with Mexico to see if we can get our company out there. And we actually do have an ambassador out there now. But what I was trying to say is the fact I don't want to overtake this meeting here, but it'll be a good investment to try to corner the market out there. There's massive amount of money that they have, and to corner it, there is nothing now going from here to Mexico. So I mean, if anybody's interested, I'll shoot out my email to you guys of the company. And like I said, we're trying to find people are talking about $1 million corporation, $1 billion corporation, and we're now trying to get into Mexico. So if you guys are interested, kind of that's a little investment for you guys too. Okay.
Sharing, Edward. Thank you.
Okay. But thank you for this information today, and it's going to be awesome. I have a lot of stuff that I wrote down, and hopefully I can get my house quicker than I thought about. Appreciate it again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you for having
joining.
Hi to your mom.
We will. Okay, well, thanks, Ulises.
All right. Take care, everybody. Be safe out there.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.